Hi folks, welcome to another exciting edition of Philad's accounting tutorial videos. First one we're going to do here is the cash flow revision activity for Berry Industries. And so your exam question will be quite similar to this one, wherein that you are presented with a cash at bank ledger account, as we've been practicing several times up to this point, and you need to go and classify each transaction, and then go and create your statement of cash flows. So first things first, what I would be doing is when I'm presented with this, and guys, you've got your 15 minutes planning time for your exam. So this is, and as I've said, all of your responses are typed, which means that you can do as much writing as you want in your planning time. You can do as much writing as you want on your exam paper. So for some of these questions, you can go and do the classification and get that out of the way before your exam even starts. So first things first, I will be writing an in at the top of this column and an out at the top of this column, because obviously cash at bank account, if it's a debit, it's money coming into the bank account, like service fees received, and if it's a credit into the bank account, it's decreasing it. Therefore it's money going out, like we're paying interest or we're paying wages and things like that. So we go down and classify our bank account. Okay, service fees is operating inflow. Interest expense, it's in the credit, well, it's an expense because it's in the credit column, so it's operating outflow. Elkerns, okay, in these instances here where you're just given a name, it suggests that it's either an accounts receivable or an accounts payable. So you need to interpret the data here to see whether it's in the credit column or the debit column to determine whether it's an accounts receivable or an accounts payable. So this one's accounts payable, it's an operating outflow. Wages, operating outflow. Rent received, operating inflow. Supplies expense, or supplies, operating outflow. Service fees, operating inflow. Telephone, operating outflow. Service fees, op inflow. P. Handley, it's in the debit column, that'd be an accounts receivable, operating inflow. Loan repayment will be a repayment of borrowings. Okay, so that's a financing outflow. Motor vehicle is an outflow, so we've bought a car, so that would be an investing outflow. Wages, operating outflow. Rent, operating outflow. Drawings, payment of drawings is a financing outflow, and service fees is an operating inflow. So that should be classified so that it looks a little something like this. And what I'll do is I'll zoom out on that and just hold it there for a minute, so that if you need to just pause it so that you can compare your classification. I'll shut up for 2 seconds. Okay, so if you needed to pause it there, you could. Okay, well, let's move on. We've got it classified, and you will have this sitting beside you on your exam paper. As you go and include your transactions, these transactions into your cash flow statement, make sure you give them a tick or cross them out or whatever your system is to make sure that you know that they've been dealt with, and so that nothing gets left out, or so that we have no double ups. Okay, moving on. So I'm using our exam template, exactly the same one that you'll be presented with in your exam. Okay, so first things first, business name at the top, industry, statement of cash flows. Now, very important, guys, to put our period ended at the top. Okay, so a cash flow statement and a statement of profit and loss is for the period ended. A balance sheet is as at. Okay, so for the period ended, this one is for the 30th of September 2018. Okay, and as I've suggested in class before, the tip that I think, and you might write it on your exam paper during planning time just to help you if you've been struggling to memorize and remember, go and do your shell first. Okay, so we want to do our shell, so we'll start with cash flows from operating activities. Okay, we start with inflows. Oh, that's already italicized. Interesting. Outflows. and then we have net cash from operating expenses. Okie doke, so that's one section. Alright, so what I suggest you do is you copy that, just trying to cut down on typing time, might save us a few seconds along the way, and we're going to paste that twice. Okay, and then in order we've got operating, investing, and financing, so we'll just change this to investing, change this to investing, change this one to financing. And this one here to financing. Okay, and then so once you've got your shell, I want you to bold and italicize the appropriate area. So if we start with bold and we hold down the control key, okay, control key, and we go and select all these items that we want to bold. I'm just using my scroll mouse as well. I don't want to bold this one here. And we hit the bold icon or control B, we've bolded those ones. Now for everything that we want to have in italics, assuming that these aren't in italics to start with, okay, highlight all of these ones we want to italicize, control I, or hit the italics button up here, and that becomes italicized. You might quickly want to just put in the main ones as well, receipts from customers. Payments to suppliers. Oh, why is that in italics? Payments to suppliers for purchases. Okay, we'll get those ones in, or you can just do them as we go. And so with our shell, we want to continue on. We want to have net increase. Sorry, I jumped a little bit there. Net increase, decrease in cash held. Cash at the beginning of the reporting period. Cash at the end. Cool. Alrighty, let's get cracking. So that's the shell. Alright, so we will make a start. So with our classified bank account next to us, okay, we want to do our receipts from customers as our first one. It's the main one of operating inflows, receipts from customers. So we go down our list and we identify what we're going to put in there. So we're going to go, okay, service fees, receipt from customer. That's other. That one's going to go in receipts from customers. That one's going to go in receipts from customers. So is that. And so is that. Okay. So receipts from customers in the first column, we're going to go, and don't forget to cross these out as we go along, equals 1750, the first one. Okay, give that a tick or cross it out. Going down that in column, okay, rent received, we'll skip over 300, so we add in 800 service fees on the 13th. We add in 1600 service fees on the 16th. We add in 320 from P. Handley on the 16th as well, and then 2,900 on the 30th in service fees. Enter. Okie doke. So in our template, we don't have any dividends received, we don't have any interest received, but what we do have is we have some other operating revenue. So that's ticked, that's ticked, that's ticked, so is that, and so is that, and that leaves us with this $300 here, rent received. So we're going to put that in other operating revenue. So other operating revenue. And I'm going to separately itemize this. I'm going to add in another line just to give us a bit of space. Hit the space bar 3 times and put in rent of $300. Underline just under that first column and auto sum those figures, because that's all we've got in our in column. That's everything taken care of. 7670. Hopefully that's fine. So far so good with you guys. We'll move on. So the next one, payments to suppliers for purchases, and we already know that we've got payments to employees. Other stuff we'll sort out as we go. Payments to suppliers from purchases, if we go back here, alright, L Kearns is an accounts payable, that will go in there. Wages, no. Supplies, yes. Telephone will be other. Loan repayment we've identified as other, or as financing, that's investing. Payments to employees, this one will be other, and this one's financing. Okay, so that leaves us just with L Kearns and this supplies here. So I'll go payments to suppliers for purchases equals, we'll say 500 plus, and we tick, we'll cross these out as we go, plus 330 gives us 830. Okay, so then payments to employees, there are a few items of wages in here, so I'm just going to go right ahead, equals $600 on the 4th, and scanning down that list, we also had $710 on the 22nd. So 1310 for payments to employees. Okay, so if we look at, if you're doing this while you've been working and you've got the template from page 121 open, okay, we'll see that the next one is interest paid. And then we'll have payments for other operating expenses. Okay, so interest paid. We did notice one of those. We've got interest paid on the 1st of $210. So we'll add $210 in there. Give that a tick on your cash or bank account. And then we go into other. And I'll separately itemize these under that heading. So 1, 2, 3. And what have we got? We've got telephone and we've got rent. Okay, me being a little bit anal, I'm going to put them in alphabetical order. So I'm going to do rent for $2,000 and telephone of 90. Okay, scrolling down or looking down our list in the out column, that's it for operating outflows, because we're just left with the 2 financing and the 1 investing. So I'm going to put a line under there to subtotal that off. I'm going to auto sum them. And because this is the bottom bit of this section, okay, and we're going to subtotal here, we're going to do this minus this, then we need to put a line under this one as well. Okay. So we come down to net cash from operating expenses. We want to do inflows minus outflows. So equals inflows minus outflows. 3230. That matches up with the solution I had previously, so we'll move on. Hopefully your investing section is all, your operating section of your cash flow statement is always the busiest. It always has the most stuff in it because a business has all of these trading operations. So if it's a half decent business, successful business, this will be the busiest area of your cash flow statement. And the other stuff, the other sections just have a couple of items. Okay, even though there might not be any activity in investing inflows, I still like to put a 0 here so that we can have inflows minus outflows in our calculation. So I do like to, even though there's nothing in here, I do like to put proceeds from the sale of long-term assets. Okay, delete a line there. That's surplus to requirements. And here we're going to have payments for long-term assets. Don't know why that's italic. Okay, enter arrow back up. Control I to get rid of that italics. So payment for long-term assets. Now we bought a motor vehicle. So I am just going to separately identify them. Or that. So our motor vehicle that we bought was $5,600. There's only one item in here, so I've just gone straight to this column because we didn't need to subtotal anything. Just put it straight out into the middle. Underline underneath that because that's the end of our column of calculations. And we're going to do equals inflows minus outflows. Okay, and that's our investing activities taken care of. Give the motor vehicle a tick. Okie doke. Now, I do like to, again, I like to have a 0 in here. Oh, not an O though, a 0. So we can have proceeds from borrowings or proceeds from capital contributions, just to put something in there. Going to delete a line that's surplus to our requirements again. And here we've got two. We've got loan repayment, which is a repayment of borrowings, and we've got drawings, a payment of drawings, so we need to put them in. Oh, with italics. Repayment of borrowings. Control I to get rid of that. Okay, we need a subtotal, so we're going to go in this first column here, 1500, and then payment of drawings. Payment of drawings was $400. Okay, underline under both of those. Auto sum. That there. Net cash from financing the expenses equals inflows minus outflows. Gives us minus 1900. Okay, so this is the end of our field of data that we want to calculate based on. So we're going to put an underline underneath here. And our net increase or decrease in cash held is the total of all of these three sections. So we want to auto sum here. And then just drag that up to the top. Enter. We have minus 4270. Okay, and so for this one here, we go back to our bank statement, cash at the beginning of the reporting period. So for those of you still struggling with this, cash at the beginning of the reporting period is our opening balance here, 4,500 debit. It's positive, not negative, it's debit, so we put that figure in there. 4,500. Okay, and our beginning balance plus our activity for the month should then equal our total at the end. So if we auto sum this, activity for the period plus the opening or beginning reporting period balance should give us our end reporting period balance. So we're going to just put a total on that, give it a double underline. I'm going to give it a $sign. We're not dealing in decimal places here, so I'm going to come back up to this icon and get rid of the decimal places. And I'm going to bold that figure as well. Okay, and so to know that we've got it right, this figure should, $230, and it's a positive figure, should balance up with $230 debit here. So we know that we're correct. Okay, $230 debit, closing balance on our bank statement or our cash or bank account matches up with our little reconciliation at the end of our statement of cash flows. So we're done. That's it. I hope that all makes sense. I hope that clarifies and puts together everything that we've been working on. And I'll just zoom out, I guess, if you need or want the opportunity to look at everything in a whole. It's a bit too big. Yeah, that's getting pretty small. Okay, there it is, if you need to look at everything in its entirety. But I have sent the solution to you anyway, and this matches up with the solution I emailed you previously. Alright, bye for now.